What's up, amigos? Today is the day we have all been waiting for, one of the final dev streams before release. So there was a ton of things they went over, little confirmations, explanations, all the things we had hoped for, even if there were a few things I wish personally that they went more into detail with. I'd say I'm pretty happy with the stream overall. They even added some extra stuff in that was surprising to say the least. Now this video, I just wanted to recap what the finished systems look like and how they will play out for release, and we're going to start off with the world tiers. If you've been keeping up with everything Diablo 4 or tested it yourself in the open beta weekends, or even maybe the lucky few who were in the endgame closed test, then you know about the world tiers. Now we finally got a little insight here regarding going past world tier 2, which is the veteran mode. And that is the end capstone dungeons required to get into world tier 3 and eventually into world tier 4. So capstone dungeons are supposed to be more challenging dungeons with more mechanics than your ordinary dungeon and boss encounter. These are meant to be challenging and a milestone for players to pass in order to properly progress their character past level 50. Ryhkker said in the dev stream that he kind of went into thinking that it would be easy, and he tried going in at level 45. He said that he was very humbled by the experience to the point where he said he had to learn boss mechanics and eventually had to give up temporarily to power up a bit with extra gear and levels to feel more suitable for the level 50 encounter.
I was one of those guys who was saying veteran difficulty is too easy, crank it up. So end cap dungeon, I think the first one, it's recommended level 50. I was level 45, thought I was a hotshot, went in there. It was a humbling experience. That's how I discovered that, yeah, if you die enough times, you got to go back to town to repair your gear. So hardcore players beware. I had to learn like boss mechanics, study, adjust my build, and eventually put my tail between my legs, go power up a bit more before trying it again. But then conquering it felt like a really great achievement. Very satisfying.
Now to me, I think this is pretty exciting. I enjoy challenges. Anybody who enjoys ARPGs knows that everything, for the most part, is kind of a breeze, especially when you have that max build and you have these great items. So to have challenges really means a lot, and it makes it so the gameplay isn't as dull. Now, once you complete the capstone dungeon to unlock world tier 3, which I would assume is the same thing, again, that you have to do in order to unlock world tier 4, I actually wonder if the World Tier 4 Capstone Dungeon is the level 100 boss they hinted at some time ago, which would be the quote-unquote endgame boss. And this could potentially mean we could get more World Tiers in the future past 4. So with World Tier 3 and 4 come new item types, and those are sacred items that can drop in World Tier 3, and ancestral items in World Tier 4, which I stated in a previous video of mine. Sacred items are items that you can obtain right at level 50, or maybe you won't get one at all. But it was stated the higher level creatures you are killing past your own level, the higher chance you have at obtaining sacred items. Now, I've also mentioned in one of my previous videos that these are very similar, if not identical, to ancient and primal ancient items in Diablo 3. So though ancients aren't as rare and were definitely more frequent in later seasons, we have no idea how rare they will make sacreds and ancestral items. I'm hoping we don't get bombarded with them. Something they said is how powerful they can be. A level 50 sacred item can easily last until level 70 is how they made it seem, going in the world tier 4, and the level range will be between 50 and 70. Apparently, again, from how they worded it, we won't see sacred items past level 70. This is because at level 70 you want to be in world tier 4, and then you have access to ancestral items, which would be the level range of 70 to 100. Now, Helltides and Nightmare dungeons are also available in world tier 3. And we finally get an in-depth look at Helltides and Nightmare dungeon features, including the sigils, and how they will look with affixes on them. So you'll have more generic affixes like increased monster attack speed and damage, but you'll also have themed affixes like nightmare portals that pour out enemies from hell, or blood blisters, which Ryhkker explained as something that grew and grew until it would pop for massive damage to the player, explaining that you had to choose between killing that or running away until it was popped. Now, it was also discussed that Nightmare Sigils can be salvaged, which we did see in the beta. We were able to craft our own sigils anywhere from tier 1 to tier 100. So it was discussed that it would be at a rate of 4 to 1 approximately, and that is to recraft to try and get sigils more suitable for your class and build. So Nightmare Dungeons are going to play a pivotal role in class development also, because you need to farm Nightmare Dungeons in order to upgrade your glyph. And from what the devs said, and what we can finally see, is that glyphs hold the highest power spike potential in character power growth, more so than Paragon boards. Now, this is something that we weren't fully aware of. This is things that were speculated. These are things that people really wanted to know. We finally got confirmation. Glyphs are going to be very, very important. So, at the end of the Nightmare Dungeon, when you complete it, you'll be able to upgrade your glyphs similar to how you would level gems up after a greater rift in Diablo 3. Now, the devs did come out with patch notes last week with different balance changes, and this was all based off player feedback and the beta feedback, the player data that they've accumulated through the beta test. So they explained and went more in depth with what they changed with the dungeons and pathing and side objectives, and I think all of this will make dungeons more enjoyable, especially since they also apply to Nightmare Dungeons as well. And having to farm Nightmare Dungeons, you know, nobody wanted to backtrack, take an extra 15 minutes to maybe go back for something that they had missed. So one of the biggest changes here is that your objectives will always be on your way to the end instead of going back and backtracking. So Helltides is something we've been trying to get more information about, because it is a periodic open world event that everyone will be participating in. Well, we finally got some concrete explanations. These events will last for about 45 minutes, what it looked like according to the footage we've seen. It was stated it would be about an hour, but who really knows? Like I said, it definitely seemed like from the timer of when they entered the zone, it was a 45-minute timer immediately. So maybe it takes about 15 minutes to form or so, and gives the players an opportunity to gather around and get ready for the Helltide to start, similar to what we were seeing in the beta with the world boss. In the selected Helltide areas, you can kill more challenging monsters to obtain cinders. These cinders will be used on caches around the area that do indeed have fixed locations, and each of these chests will have predetermined items to hunt for. So if you want to look for helmets, you can look for a helmet cache. If you need rings, to look for ring caches, and so forth. A really interesting thing that they were talking about is the fact that you seem to be able to get uniques out of these chests as well, and uniques are something that will be available in World Tier 3 and 4. But with all these great things about Helltides comes one unfortunate downside, and that's, if you die, you actually lose half your cinders that you've already accumulated. And they don't drop on the ground for other players to pick up or for you to come back and pick up either, they're just gone. Please also note that you cannot farm cinders and keep them every Helltide event. As soon as the Helltide you are in is over, your cinders will also go with it. So make sure to spend your cinders before the event is over. So world tiers and what comes with them are going to be a really fun experience, I think. Hopefully we don't have, Torment 1 to 1,000 like we did in Diablo 3. But I would also like to see a few more with that being said. And I don't think it's really a stretch either. I think with what the devs have in play and them keep saying it's a live service and all these other things, I think we can expect more world tiers, or at least new activities with World Tier 4 very shortly. And maybe as the game progresses, we'll get a World Tier 5 or 6. Now, what do you all think about the world tiers and how they advance the character growth? You can leave a comment down below. And until next time, amigos,